Hello and welcome to the Cryptocurrency News channel. Today we are going to talk about the top 10 altcoins. That does not include Bitcoin or Tether because Bitcoin is not an altcoin and Tether is, well, it's Tether, so there's no reason to discuss that. It'll always be a dollar unless that New York State Attorney General's case falls apart, and then Tether will be worth nothing, and that would crash the entire market. But we're going to talk about the top 10 altcoins aside from Tether, and we're going to go down the list. I'm going to say this is just my opinion. It's not financial advice. It's my opinion on whether I would buy them and what price would I be looking at to buy them in terms of Bitcoin ratio. Remember, I'm buying all these coins with Bitcoin. I'm not buying with USD. So where would I buy all these coins? So let's start with Ethereum. Ethereum, yes, I would buy it, and I would buy it around at the beginning of Q4 or slightly into Q4 because there's supposed to be some kind of big upgrade at the beginning of January. That date has not been confirmed, but I think people are going to FOMO in as we get closer to that date with 2.0 and Casper. As for Bitcoin ratio, it's hard to say. Ethereum's actually been dropping a lot in Bitcoin ratio. So right now, I would say if Bitcoin dips again to under $10,000 and you see Ethereum dip below $200, that means at that point the Ethereum ratio will be even lower than it is right now. And if it dips below $200, that's when I would pick up some Ethereum. In terms of pure Bitcoin ratio, you see it's at 0.02. If it drops below 0.02, that means if it loses 5-6 more percent, that might be a good time to pick up some Ethereum for a quick rise and a gain of a couple of percent on your Bitcoin position. So Ethereum, I would actually pick up below $200. I would pick up below $200, or if Bitcoin drops to like 0.0198 or something, I think that's a good pickup for Ethereum. So let's go on to XRP. XRP is a little strange right now because there was a lot of hype building up to the SBI VC launch. Now there is the MoneyGram announcing that they've started to use XRP. None of those have had much effect on the price, of course. And I actually think the VC launch thing got a lot of people actually disappointed. They thought it was going to at least pump up the price some, but speculators have shown that they're not willing to speculate anymore on XRP until they see utilization. Volume has actually dropped in the last few days since the launch and the MoneyGram announcement. So it's hard for me to see any kind of short or maybe even midterm price pump for XRP. Now, XRP did get to about 3,300 Satoshi pre-SBI launch. So if XRP drops below, I would say 2,850 or 2,800, I think it's a pretty decent pickup. Because remember, XRP has a bottom. XRP actually has a bottom at around 28 cents. So it's very hard for it to drop past that, especially when Bitcoin is rising. So the thing is, for right now, you have to buy XRP the opposite of whether you think Bitcoin is going to rise or drop, especially if Bitcoin's around $10,000. If you think Bitcoin is going to make a huge jump in price, you want to sell your XRP for Bitcoin because I don't think XRP is going to keep up with Bitcoin's increase in price. Likewise, if you actually see, if you think Bitcoin is going to drop significantly below $10,000, you might actually want to pick up some XRP because XRP won't drop as hard because for some reason there is a solid bottom around 28 cents. I don't know if Ripple's floating it up. I don't know if whales are floating it up, but there seems to be interest in not letting XRP drop below 28 cents. So in terms of Bitcoin ratio, right now, I'd be looking at around 2,850 to get in, and then maybe around 3,400 to sell back out. And that leaves you a 10 to 15% profit window in terms of improving your Bitcoin position. Because I don't really see any major movements for XRP in the next couple of weeks or even the next month or so. There's a lot of back to school rumors, but I'm pretty sure I don't really make too much of those things. And the volume has been dropping, so the interest, I think, is sort of waning for XRP right now after the VC trade launch. Maybe after a week or two, the account signups will actually kick back in, but I don't know. I think that's actually somewhat unlikely. So XRP, I would look to get in around 2,800 or 2,850, especially if Bitcoin keeps rising. If you think Bitcoin is going to move, and just stay in Bitcoin. But anytime you see when XRP is around 30 in the lower 30 cents, 30s in terms of price, and you think Bitcoin is going to drop, that's when I actually would buy XRP. for right now. Once it gets into the 40 cents, then it doesn't really apply anymore because then there's a lot of malleable. The price downwards value very malleable as well. But right now in the lower 30s, the drop price is not very malleable. It has a bottom at around 28 cents. So when Bitcoin really starts dropping, that's when you actually want to pick up XRP to save your ratio. So Litecoin is extremely risky right now. If Bitcoin doesn't move, if this actually falls to 0.007, that's when I would be sure to pick some up because I think that might be somewhat of a bottom. I know Litecoin was at $22 when Bitcoin was at like $3,000. So I actually expect like the cutoff price if Bitcoin stays at its price right now to be around $70 for Litecoin. I know some people, including myself, were speculating on a last pump in the last 2 or 3 days before the halving. I think the chances that is a very long shot, and I don't actually think that's going to happen. It might happen, and that's why I'm like hanging on to it. But I personally don't think that will actually happen. I know I'm taking a big risk by hanging on to it because I'm hoping that the pinch in supply after the halving will actually upset the supply-demand balance, and Litecoin will go up. And I think like when it actually gets Mimblewimble implemented with the security, the privacy stuff, it will actually go up as well. But that's still a long ways off. And if I wasn't already in Litecoin right now, I would not be betting on that. I'm kind of just stuck in it right now because I don't want to sell at a loss. And I believe in the long run, at least have a couple more pumps will make that Bitcoin ratio. So if you see it falling to around 0.007 BTC, or if Bitcoin stays stable right now, about $70, $72, I think that's a pretty decent get-in point for Litecoin. So that's Litecoin. Bitcoin Cash is very interesting. Bitcoin Cash follows Bitcoin pretty much exactly almost. So basically, it pumps more than Bitcoin when Bitcoin goes up, and it dumps more than Bitcoin when Bitcoin goes down. So if it's really, do you think this market is bear or bull? If you think it's a bear market, buy Bitcoin. If you think it's a bull market, buy BCH, because I think BCH will treat you very, very well in a bull market. Not really sure why that is, but it is. So 0.31, I think anytime if it falls around 0.27, 0.26, that's an excellent time to pick up some Bitcoin Cash, but it does vary. It does vary a lot according to the overall Bitcoin price. It does scale better than Bitcoin because of the larger blocks, but it is proof of work, so it does have some of those same limitations eventually. BNB is, I think, the coin that might have actually desynced the most from Bitcoin. BNB, there's no real Bitcoin ratio I would actually buy into. It's just that when do you think they're actually going to announce another Binance Launchpad IEO? Because those seem to pump Binance coin up in price, especially during a bull market. So it's really like announcements for Binance that I would really look for. And of course, you have to watch out for September 12th. If I actually held Binance coin right now, I would probably sell half of it before the September 12th cutoff date, or I would probably sell half of it right now just to lock in some profits from the earlier months. And because the September 12th date might actually hurt Binance coin significantly, since Binance will no longer be available to US customers. I know they'll have Binance US. I do not know when that will open, and it will not have all the coins that Binance right now does. So I think that will be a fairly significant blow to Binance, and I don't think BNB will be available in the United States. So that's why I would sell half my Binance coin right now and see what happens with the other half. Tether, there's no point in discussing Tether. It's a stable coin. EOS, regardless of the ratio, I don't think I would really buy EOS right now. I think it's going to keep dumping in relation to Bitcoin, unless Dan Larimer or EOS has some kind of amazing announcement coming up. The June 1st announcement was very underwhelming, and because of that, I still think it's dumping because it doesn't have any significant news. EOS is also pretty centralized, and Dan Larimer actually said decentralization was not one of their goals. That does not play well with the cryptocurrency community. They do have a large war chest, but as for right now, I don't know if they're going to do much with that war chest. It went up a lot, above $6, close to $7 at its max, but that announcement in June of their social network that they're developing was not what people were hoping it to be, and therefore it is dipping right now. Bitcoin SV, I just wouldn't buy, period. Bitcoin SV's movements are really kind of random, and if it was at $55, I might say take a stab at it because it could pump up, but it's 147 right now. We know that like 80% of the volume is happening by the top 100 trades or the top 100 TXT moves, text moves. So we know that basically one or two big players is essentially holding the price up, and basically it's all fake volume for right now. So people have described Bitcoin SV's activity as a ghost town. So I think it's basically Craig Wright and CoinGeek holding this coin up. And if it was $55 like it was a couple of months ago, I might take a stab at it. So just because I might think they're going to pump it again. But since it's 147, I'm just going to leave it alone. I wouldn't buy it. Stellar depends way too much on IBM. If IBM does not make a major announcement, I think Stellar is going to keep tanking. Now, Stellar rises with XRP, rises and drops with XRP, but unlike XRP, it doesn't really have a bottom for dropping. Like XRP holds at 28 cents. Stellar doesn't really have a bottom for dropping, so it's an extremely risky asset. If you think XRP is going to go up anytime soon, then I would actually buy some Stellar. But there's not a set Bitcoin ratio that I would actually tell people to buy Stellar in, because unless I have inside information on IBM and they're going to announce something huge, I probably just would not mess with Stellar at this point. Moving on to Cardano. Now, I've been pretty down on Cardano, but I do think Shelly's launch is actually coming pretty close. It's going to be towards the end of the year. So as we get closer to Q4, or even right now, I actually might dab in some Cardano. I think the ratio of Bitcoin is going to keep dropping a little bit until they announce the Shelly release. Now, in terms of ratio, if it drops below 500 Satoshi, that's when I actually would pick some up. Because I think the risk reward is then worth it, because you know that it's going to pump on news of Shelly release or Shelly release. And when that pump happens, you should definitely sell and lock in your profits with Cardano. That'll be best if it's within a bull market and then Shelly and Gongguan both launch. You might want to actually hold on to Cardano towards the end of the year. So buying in during September, October may not be a bad idea, as long as you know that Shelly's not going to launch by then, because I think it's actually going to launch in probably November or December. So buying in September, October may not be a bad idea. Try to buy in at under 500, because I do think the ratio is still going to keep going down a little bit, even as we get closer and closer to Q4. So under 500, probably buy for Cardano for me. And the last one we're going to talk about is TRON. TRON is like Justin's son. So because it's, Justin's son, I don't really know what to say about it, really. The whole social fiasco right now has really hit TRON pretty hard. And the coin is way down, 200 Satoshis, probably the lowest it's been since, 2017, in like almost 2 years. It is actually lower than back in November when it was 1.4 cents. So the ratio is actually really low. We might be sort of hitting a bottom. If TRX falls below like 200 or 190, I might pick some up, because as soon as this whole thing blows over, I think TRON will rise in price again. I don't think Justin Sun actually has kidney stones. I think that was just made up. I do not think there's actually a travel ban from China on Justin Sun, because he was just seen in San Francisco a while ago. But I do think the Chinese government does not want him to meet with Warren Buffett because of the whole trade war and intention stuff. Justin Sun is actually like a celebrity back in China. They don't want someone popular, I guess, seen with an American mogul during this tense trade war time. So it's more of a PR thing for the CCP. And that should not really have that much of an effect on price. Also, I don't know if they really think Justin Sun's that important. They might actually the Chinese government might actually have other plans for TRON, and that would bode well for TRON. So below 200 or below 190, I might actually pick up some TRON and speculate on the future use of TRON. But right now it is kind of sketchy, because Justin Sun and crew has always been kind of sketchy. But there is still a future for TRON. I'm not going to write it off as a scam or a scandal right now. And I do believe that there is a future for it as soon as this gets cleared up. I really do think it's the Chinese government's fault not wanting him to meet with Warren Buffett. And because he is a technology company, he is anchored in Singapore, but a lot of it is in China. He does have to follow those marching orders. It's no coincidence that he apologized profusely to the party. He apologized for over marketing his lunch with Warren Buffett, and he basically specifically said that particular event. So I'm guessing it's just the Chinese Communist Party does not want Justin Sun to be seen so friendly with an American mogul during this tense time, and that should actually blow over. So I think Tron's actually okay, but I would not buy it above 200 or maybe not even above 190 for future prospects. So that concludes the top 10 altcoins where I would and would not buy them. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you and have a nice day.